Hello, welcome to the Reasonably Effective podcast, brought to you by myself, Uncommon Fossil, and 10 Types. Why don't you say hello?
Yep. Hello, everyone.
So this ish, I believe, will be episode 41. We have an extra. We already have one other episode that hasn't been uploaded yet. So assuming the sequence stays the way we're recording them, it's episode 41. I got to say, just briefly, I've had a really fun Pokemon week. Put together a Dodrio Pupitar deck, just a Dodrio attacking deck. It actually worked pretty well, so you can check out my video on that. Decks like that, jank decks like that, a lot of fun to me. So just fun week. How was your week, by the way, 10 Types?
It was pretty good. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's reaching that point where the new set's right around the corner. So I'm
Yep.
starting to focus more on that, which is fine. I haven't been playing as much though, because obviously you can't play the new cards in live just yet.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting though, looking at the new set. I think Paradox Shift is a very good set, especially compared to the Sword and Shield's equivalent, Vivid Voltage. This is amazing. So I think this is the best set of the year. And the other
hmm
sets haven't been bad either, right? I think you'd say the rest were certainly all right.
Yeah, I think it's been a good year for cards coming out. I mean, I think this set is more like Battle Styles, right? Because it's introducing this new mechanic similar to Battle Styles. So.
Yeah, I will say the Paradox mechanic is arguably less interesting as all the Pokemon are basics in kind of how they're made, which is a little less interesting. But I think the cards are cool, and this set has depth, and
Mhm.
it's not really the Paradox Pokemon are only one aspect of it, which is I think good.
Yeah, I think we'll get some good things out of the set. So, but yeah, like you said, right now it's towards the end of the before the next set comes out, so it gets a little old. But rather than looking to the future, which you've been doing, I think a lot in your YouTube channel, we're going to look back. Right? We had a video
We can look
before.
into the past. You should have said look into the past because it's past and future, like
Uh,
the Paradox.
all right. You'll see. This is why you should do the introductions, but you don't do that, right? So you leave it to me. So yeah, we're
Yeah, I heard you say future, and I was like, oh, this is perfect, and then you
and then I
stop.
just dropped the ball. So, but what I will say is we're going to look at another Hall of Fame. We did D Block Hall of Fame a little while ago. We're going to do the C Block Hall of Fame. Obviously, before D was the C, so therefore everyone knows what I'm talking about, correct? C Block is what we're calling it.
Uh, yeah, we're calling it. Oh, actually, I don't know. It's
I
called
figured you're supposed to say no to that, right?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, no. See, because the way it works is there are blocks for Pokemon cards,
Yes.
and it says in the lower left hand of the corner, or is it right? I don't remember. I think it's lower left
Left
hand.
hand, I think, yeah.
Um, except for that started in the Sword and Shield era for the international sets, but in Japan it started with A. Obviously, I think we talked about this last time.
Yeah.
So we don't really need to talk about too much again. But yeah, this is essentially this is the end of the Sun and Moon era. The last year, the blocks are generally by year.
Yeah.
It's technically not that, but I really don't know which cards rotated at a different time. So
Yeah, I mean the sets we're talking about from the Team Up, Unbroken Bonds, Unified Minds, Cosmic Eclipse. Those are the main sets that
yeah,
we're talking about.
yeah, and then the mini sets, mini expansions. There's Detective Pikachu, which is not
hmm
a very good set. It's a small set, not a very good set. And then Hidden Fates, a very big set, but most of the cards already rotated, or rotated earlier, as it's mostly like shiny reprints of various cards.
Okay.
So I don't think there are many cards from that. I don't think there are any that are going to the Hall of Fame. We're obviously talking about playability as well, and
Yeah.
in the standard format. And
hmm
one other thing that's very important for us to mention is we didn't play when these cards came out a ton.
Right.
So we more so know them from later, and
Yes.
I've certainly seen play from them when they came out, but we don't know as much about them. But this kind of means that you can look at like say the World Championship and you kind of see, and the meta didn't change. I mean, the meta changed, but the cards that were good kind of stayed good. So yeah,
Right.
hopefully that makes.
Yeah, we played with these cards when with the Sword and Shield cards. We didn't play very much with these with the earlier Sun and Moon cards. So we're trying to our best to evaluate them over the full scope of their card life.
Yeah, and I think it won't be too difficult as when the tag teams came out, which this is the tag team era, I should say.
Yeah, that's good. Yep.
All the tag teams were in this block. They kind of dominated. So, um, yeah, tag teams are kind of the stars of the show, and cards that support them. And we'll see a few other things. But I think there's one thing we should talk about before we
Yep.
kind of get into this, and this is something we haven't really discussed, Uncommon Fossil and I didn't discuss before. Um, what are we gonna do about the banned cards? Because during this time, there were cards banned in the standard format. There was Beloba and Bryson Man and Miss Magius, um, and they were good cards, arguably very good cards, but
Hmm.
they were banned. I don't really know when they were banned. Not gonna lie, but they were banned relatively early on in their lifespan. Um, so what are your thoughts on putting those cards in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, since they were banned in standard for a decent amount of time, I'm inclined to say that they're not eligible for the Hall of Fame for this. Because
Yeah, I think that's fair.
that's my thought. Because and obviously how they worked within decks and within the meta, there's not a lot of information on that because they weren't allowed in that around much.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Also, the banned cards were good, but and arguably they're broken. But I don't know. I don't think they were as strong as banned cards of the past as well.
Hmm.
Um, and so maybe at some point we'll talk about those at a different time.
Yeah,
And in the comments you can say on our YouTube channels if you're listening on a podcasting platform, go to the YouTube channel comments to tell us something because we don't check
uh,
the podcast
comments
comments.
on
I don't know if we
podcast
can.
apps, right? Yeah, they're
Uh,
they're harder to see the way the distribution system works that we're working with. But the YouTube channel, that's easy to do. I assume they were banned because of specific kind of interactions with other cards at the time. I don't know if that's
um,
correct.
yeah, well, they were interactions within the block. So the one was Miss Magius, which is it, like knocked itself out. It like drew cards, but it was powerful with the card Duskstone, which I
Hmm.
was considering putting on the list, but like it's good because of Miss Magius, and it was okay with some other cards, but really like broken with Miss Magius. And then Bulbin Bryson Man, a mill based card,
Hmm.
um, that is not actually banned and expanded, which is kind of interesting. Some people, oh yeah, no, I guess it was banned a little before Darkness Ablaze, because people said they banned it because it was a hard counter to Eternatus, which it was. Um, and I don't know if that's true, but it could have been. It discard. It's like kind of Avery,
Hmm.
except it also like mills. It's kind of a weird card because it does the same thing to each person. But
Yeah. Okay. But what's the simple thing, short thing is we're not going to include them in our Hall of Fame just
as of now,
as of now, right? Some future episode, maybe we'll bring them in within something. Um,
yeah. But so I think this time we actually have collected more cards to look at, but then we're not going to give the weaker cards as big of a look. So I think let's start with special energy. And do you have any special energy on your list?
I have no energy on my list, so I don't even remember which ones the energies were. I gotta say.
Yeah,
So
the best was triple acceleration energy, which
yes.
was good, but
Hmm.
um, eh, it's just getting expanded, and it was
Right.
decent, but
I mean, this
it's
is the
not
one
the
after you
best.
attack, you discard it, correct? Or am I wrong about that?
Yes, it
Which
is. I
which
mean,
is
that's not the
weird.
good
No,
best. That's not the good part
that's a
of it. That's
bad
a
part to it. If it didn't discard, maybe it would certainly be better, probably. But having played Mad
mad
Party,
party.
of course,
Well, it
that
didn't really matter that it discarded though,
no,
because
that one didn't
you
matter
have like no
exactly.
health.
You're getting knocked out every turn anyway. So yeah, so no energies. So we'll jump into the trainers here, and I have one tool card. I don't know if you have any or more or
I also
less.
have one tool card, which I think is going to be the same tool card.
So metal goggles, is that correct?
Yep.
Which is good. So the question, like, if we think it's a strong candidate for top 10, we'll kind of set it to the side. I think this one's probably not a top 10 card.
Yeah. So I'll say what it does.
Yeah,
It's a tool, which at the time was an item card, but now it's not. It doesn't really matter. But
right.
it says if it's attached to a metal Pokemon, that Pokemon takes 30 less damage, and it's also immune to um
Uh,
uh
uh,
attacks
uh,
and abilities putting damage counters on it.
right.
So that stops. It stops Inteleon, stops Dragapult, and it stops a few other things. But
Right.
mostly it's there for damage reduction. It was good in full Luke Metal,
Right.
and that's about it. It helped the deck out, but I don't think it's that good of a card.
Yeah, and like you said, Luke Metal, which I like to play, definitely enjoyed it in that deck, but I don't know that many other metal decks even use the card. So I think it was just too narrow to really to be
Yeah,
a Hall of Fame worthy card.
yeah. I guess I said it wasn't good. It is good, but it's not as good as some of the other ones we're gonna look at. So I'm fine with dropping it.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and next up, let's talk about. You said we talked briefly before the podcast. You said you had some stadiums.
I
on your
have
list? I did not have any.
I have three stadiums. All right, this is the weakest one, so I'll hit it briefly. Power Plant, which is annoying. Pokemon GX and EX and Play have no abilities, so Path to the Peak, obviously, but they didn't have ones that were rule box in general. So it was a significant card for some decks, but I'm pretty sure that one is not a Hall of Fame worthy card.
Yeah, especially when V's came out, then it was like kind of it wasn't necessarily bad, but it was kind of weird and not as strong. I don't think it's Hall of Fame worthy.
No, no. I mean, if you play Expanded, it's a card to know. And then two stadiums that I think are strong, Chaotic Swell, and that's certainly a card if it was around now would see play in a number of decks. It is a stadium that essentially has no effect on the game. But what it does is whenever a player plays a stadium for their hand, you discard that stadium after discarding this one. So it obviously, like a stadium, it bumps the stadium in play if there's one down. And then also it can't be, when another stadium gets played to a bump it, that stadium gets discarded. So really nice against Path the Peak when it came out. You had Chaotic Swell, the opponent played Path the Peak. That Path the Peak was discarded. So they couldn't Path you unless they had something like Pumpkaboo or something to get rid of the Swell first.
Yeah, I think it's an okay card. I not popped on my list. It's not. I mean, it doesn't do anything like you said, so
Right.
it's kind of hard
It's
to
a strictly
say.
defensive one. Look, if it was around and you're playing Pidgeot, I'd be very happy to have this card.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
It,
think it's
you know,
Path is. I don't know all this. I was gonna say it's one of the best stadiums of all time, which might be true. I don't know all this state. It's not, but it's up there, but it's not probably the best. But
mhm.
it's certainly the best in like recent times. Um, and Chaotic Swell is really good against that.
Right,
But these two weren't in format together. That long at
right.
all.
A
They were
little bit though,
together
because I was playing
for
Eternatus, and so Swell was really important, right? And then when you lost Swell, that it was sad day for Eternatus.
yeah, but I think it was only a few months. I
I
feel
think
like
it was short.
Swell. And then it was played other times, but
Okay, so you don't think
just
this is
cause
a Hall of Fame card candidate then, correct?
we'll leave it in the
Is a
discussion, but
maybe. Okay. And the other stadium I think is better than that, and that's Giant Hearth. There's a fire stuff that we're going to discuss, right? So it's a piece of the fire package. The fire package was huge. And we have some of those cards I think have to make it. But during your turn, you can discard a card from hand. If you do, you search your deck for up to 2 fire energy, put them into your hand. So look, first it gets stuff in the discard, which we know is useful for a lot of decks, and then it gets energies into hand, which obviously pairs with another supporter we'll be talking about later on. I'm pretty sure that's on both our lists. So, what do you think about Giant Hearth?
Giant Hearth is interesting. And then when looking at Giant Hearth, you need to compare it to another card, Viridian Forest, which is the same thing, but for any type of energy, but for only one of it.
Right, just one. Yep.
Obviously Giant Hearth helps out fire decks, meaning that if you're against not fire, the same like really only helps you, which is good. Obviously Viridian
Yes.
Forest helps like every deck, but including your opponent. But um I don't think Giant Heart's good enough. I think it's you look at the fire package, right? And you have a lot of good
Yes.
cards in there. And Giant Hearth isn't like the top of it. It's you need to
No.
like it I think it's a substantial jump down below from the other good cards.
Okay. Okay. So you think so? Take this one out. We'll keep Swell for now.
Yeah. I think Swell's better. And
It's
Giant Heart's all right. I mean, Giant Heart's good.
mhm.
Arguably, the discarding was good for like Mewtwo and Mew, but I mean, Welder Mewtwo was a world's winning deck, which is obviously a good thing, but also it was kind of a weird deck, kind of inconsistent.
Yes.
And yeah, so
And at this time, there was a lot more discarding options, right? Right now in the game, we're very low on discard options. We're going to start to pick them up with the next set, I think. So the discard, you had quick ball in format even, so discarding wasn't, you didn't rely on Giant Hearth for that.
yeah. And
Okay.
then should we move to supporters next?
Yes. So I think we
Uh,
both have 4, we said. Whether the same 4, I guess, is the question, right?
yeah. So I'll start with the one that's probably I'm least sure of, which is Welder.
That you're least sure of?
No, no, yeah.
Okay,
Welder is
it's a joke.
definitely
This one
yeah.
is, right? This one, you attach 2 fire cards, fire energy from your hand to any one of your Pokemon, and you draw 3 cards. So we'll discuss. It was a huge card, right? It made fire decks tremendous, although it was very high roll. did you have, because you had to have the energy in hand to start with, but things
Yeah,
like,
which is why we're talking about Giant Hearth.
right.
And we'll talk about partners for it and
Yep.
yeah, other enablers. But and then I had like, how about you say your supports? Actually, I'm interested in hearing what you have on your list.
Okay. So I think this one you'll have, and that's Green's Exploration, which is
Yeah,
a
I have that one.
which is a
Which
really
isn't.
fun card. And it works differently. You can only
I
play
don't know
it.
if I'd say it's a fun card,
Well, it
but
opens up different possibilities, right? That's what's nice about it.
well, it gives you less options. But
Well, so if you
oh,
can only play this card if you have no Pokemon with abilities in play. So generally, you didn't want any Pokemon with abilities. There are a few decks that would play like one with an ability, but work around it. And then you search your deck for any 2 trainers, reveal them, put them into your hand. So it was a very skill-intensive deck. So I played green some.
I
Well,
guess it
I
was.
was pretty early in the game, and I had a hard time figuring out what to draw with the greens. I will say, because obviously, if you make the wrong choices, you don't have any Pokemon with abilities, you get yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah, and greens doesn't draw cards. I like it gets cards, but it only gets 2 cards. It doesn't like draw you cards.
Right.
So you can often have like these like just stall out during the game. It was
Hmm.
sometimes played with Welder, but they're both obviously supporters, so you can use greens to grab Welder, but you can't use it that turn.
Right.
Um, I still have it on the list though. I think greens is a good card.
I
It's not a really card I like. I'll say.
okay. It let for some interesting deck builds. It's probably not. You think it's a potential Hall of Fame, a top 10 card?
I think so.
All right.
Again, it's another card that's like super good and expanded, but obviously that's not what we're talking about.
Right.
Um, and there were a number of like VMAX decks that were like, you stick this VMAX in the active and don't do anything. And then Greens was really good with those, but those weren't super common.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll say Greens had some synergy with the next card here,
Okay.
which I don't know if you have on your list, but I think it's a good card, and that's Lieutenant Surge's strategy.
I do not. So
Hmm.
I'll call it up. But why don't you say what it does?
Yeah, this one is banned and expanded,
Okay.
and
Yeah, I
it
got to
has
change
its
my settings to
uh,
find it. That's what I was thinking. All right.
yeah.
Format all.
So its effect says you can only play if you're down on prizes. And then
Yeah.
during your turn, you can play 3 supporters, including Lieutenant Surge's strategy, meaning you can't stack it. Um, and so you play this, and then you can play 2 supporters, such as say Greens and Welders, Greens
Yeah.
and Greens Exploration and Welder. Um, and so that is good. It allows you to do fancy combos. Um, it allowed you to enable like certain weird control things. I think on like turn 2, you could like get rid of your opponent's like whole hand and like
Hmm.
control their top deck and like move all their energy. Um,
So it's banned and expanded, but it was not banned in standard, correct?
yeah, it was
At the
not banned
time.
in standard.
Okay. So hence it's
Yeah,
eligible for our Hall of Fame.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, it's not on my list, but it is a strong card. It's obviously a very interesting card. So,
yeah. And it had a magneton to enable it, which is a stage 1 KO'd itself, which put you behind, and then search for 3 supporters, Lieutenant Surgeon, the other 2. Um, and then also it was, as I said, good in control. And it's one of a number of control cards I have on my list.
okay.
Actually, I only have a few. I have 4, including this.
Okay. All right, good. All right,
4
so
traders, I should say.
okay. So I'll get to one of my supporters. This is, I think, a pretty good one. It's Cynthia and Caitlin,
Hmm.
tag team supporter. Is not on your list?
It is not. I was considering it.
It's pretty good. Like you
It's
put a
good.
supporter card from your discard pile into your hand, which is good. Of course, you can't play it, but you can recover the boss or whatever. You can't recover another Sinlin with it. So, or a card that you discard with the effect, because each of these, this is a tag team supporter, so hence the 2 names, and then it has one thing it always does, which is recover supporter. And then it also says when you play this card from hand, which all the tag teams had, you may discard another card from your hand. This part would vary. Then you draw 3 cards. So you could also discard a card, draw 3 cards. You couldn't discard a supporter and recover that same copy of the supporter. So, it was a useful card, is what I'll say. But
Yeah, it was a decent. It was good in control.
yeah,
Um, but like honestly, a lot of the time you just use it to discard 1, draw 3, which is bad.
It is. Well, you'd also, it was, you could recover things without Pal Pad, right? You'd recover it to hand, so you'd be set for the next turn,
Well,
right?
it's worse to recover. Well, yeah, but it's worse to recover with a supporter than an item. So
Yeah, it comes to hand, and look, it was part of it. There was tag team package decks, right? So it fit in that. So anyway, you don't think it's a top 10 card, right?
no, not in standard.
Okay, I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
don't think it
fair.
is.
I mean, I
Yeah.
certainly played it. I like the Luke Metal tag team decks, but it was limited to that and a few other things, probably.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it was okay. It like worked in what it did, but it was not one of the best supporters. It just happened to like work out sometimes.
okay, and I'll hit my last one because I think you have a more supporter too, correct?
Yeah, I think this
Uh,
one might be the same one.
and this one, well, this is another tag team supporter, and I don't think yours is, right? You didn't like the tag team supporters.
Yeah, no, this is it Malin.
It is okay. So you think that's better? See, I think uh, Sinlin was better than Maulana, but you switch
Uh,
your active Pokemon whether you're benched. That's again the thing it always does. And then when you play this card, you may discard 2 other cards from hand. If you do, you healed 120 cards from the Pokemon you moved to the bench. So very nice.
120 damage.
Yeah. What did I say?
You said 120 cards.
Oh, you heal 120 damage and not 120 damage
Damage
counters.
counters. Yeah,
So
which we were
right,
talking about
the
at
other
some point.
right.
Yeah.
So a very meaningful amount of damage off cards, off your Pokemon. So yes, it was a nice card. Tanky decks, right? Like I said, I played Luke Metal. This would definitely go in that because you were designed to be tanky with that type of setup. And obviously there's some other kind of control type decks and all that this would fit into. So why don't you
Uh,
make the case for it?
yeah. Well, I also had it. So you're saying control card. Like it works with Luke Metal. It works with Pikarom as well.
Yeah.
That was about it. I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's probably not as good as the other ones.
Hmm.
You were comparing it to Cynthia and Caitlyn, which is fair.
Yeah. I mean they're
Like
different.
in terms of how which one's better, and I think it's close, and I think neither of them really belongs on the top top
They're
10.
not.
I don't think.
So we have Green's Exploration, Welder, Lieutenant Surge's Strategy as can't supporter candidates right now, right?
Yeah, one of which I think will definitely be there, and we'll see about the other two.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so good. All right, so that's that. So we have the items to finish up, and I think I'll do my items because I think you have more items than me when we went through this.
Yeah, I have 7.
7. I have
Yeah, 7.
4, so we'll see if I have any you don't. But the first one is part of the fire package. That's Fire Crystal. You put 3 fire energy cards in the discard pile into your hand. So a very nice item. Obviously, it's only for fire decks. Fire decks are obviously strong though, and 3 into hand without having to discard anything is a very powerful card.
Yeah, I think Fire Crystal is behind Welder the best trainer in the fire package.
Hmm.
I mean, there aren't that many options, but it's just good. It's an item, and it
Hmm.
paired very well with Blacephalon, which we'll talk about, or Baby Blacephalon.
Right.
Um, it kind of defined that, which is obviously it is something I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Fire Crystal is good. I don't know
Uh,
if it's top 10, but it's pretty good.
so you think it's a we keep it on the list for now, right? It's a candidate.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep going. I this is a card I really like, and that's Pokemon Communication. I don't know if this is on your list or not. I don't think you like it as
Yeah.
much as I do.
No, I like it. I like it too.
So you reveal
I think we both like it more than we should.
maybe partly
It's
look.
fun.
We
It's
played a
really
lot of
themed.
theme, and it was one
Yeah.
of the best cards in your theme deck. But that's I guess not saying much, right? That's
Yeah. Well, that's also because like the other good items, which were Ultra Ball, like Evo Incense, like those
yeah,
were the 2 good ones in themed, and they weren't in the best theme decks really. I
right,
mean, Ultra Ball they kind of were, but Pokemon Communication was in like all the best theme decks and was like like the best item card in all the theme decks,
right.
like by a long shot.
So what it does, if you don't remember it or didn't play it, you reveal a Pokemon card from your hand, you put it into your deck, and then you search your deck for a Pokemon card and put it into hand. So it lets you, as long as you have the Pokemon communication and some random Pokemon card in hand, you can search your deck for any one Pokemon card, which you usually would have a Pokemon card
Which
of
I'll
some
say when
sort.
you say Pokemon card, like a Pokemon, they're
That's
all
true. That's true.
what you said
They're all
wasn't wrong, but it's a
okay.
bit
Yes, you,
strange.
you reveal a Pokemon. Is what I should say. Yes, not a Pokemon card. So it was a very good card. Do you think it's a candidate for the top 10?
Yeah, I definitely think it is. I think
Okay.
it's very versatile.
Yes.
I think we both like it, which might brings in some bias, but it's certainly a very solid
Mhm.
card.
It's probably the most versatile of all the trainer cards that I have. As I look at my list, I think it's the most versatile of all of them.
Um,
I don't know what you have. Maybe I've missed something. We'll
yeah,
get to that, but it's more versatile than ones we talked about already.
yeah,
Right. So the next one I have is Great Catcher.
yeah. I got that one too.
So you play this only you have to discard 2 cards from hand, and then you gust up a GX or EX capital EX into the active. So obviously an item that gusts the big tanky, the most powerful Pokemon in the game at the time, was a very good card. Now, when we were playing, a lot of it, the V's were out for a lot of the time, in the EXs were out of the game. So Great Catcher's value at that point was greatly
Yeah. Well,
diminished.
EXs were never, I believe, in the game with Great Catcher. Yeah, no, they weren't.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind
So
of
so they
strange, but
printed it strictly
yeah.
thinking of expand at the time, and at this point in time, Pokemon's really abandoned expand. So that's
Well, they
interesting.
kind of do that. Like they do some weird things. Like they reprinted Choice Belt too in Scarlet and
Hmm.
Violet when there aren't any Pokemon V's. It's which is for standard.
Okay.
Um, oh wait, actually, I don't know why they did that. Yeah, I don't really know.
All right. So it's a very good card, right? I don't know how strong a card. I haven't. I mean, it's a card I played a little, not a lot. Even expanded now, it's kind of a fringe card to put in. Especially now we have all the V's and the new EXs, which this doesn't affect. So it's limited for what it does in expanded. But I don't know how early days, particularly how strong a card this was.
Yeah, I mean it was good earlier, but I don't know. I think we should keep it in consideration.
Okay.
It's weird, right? Because it's theoretically it's like very good,
Yeah.
but then it's not like necessarily actually very good because principally you're up. I think no, I don't think we should keep it on the list. I don't think we're gonna end up adding it to the top 10. Um, and
Okay.
for pretty much the whole time we were playing, it wasn't good. Like it wasn't garbage, but it wasn't amazing either.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as I've looked at some expanded decks, they'll sometimes play a copy of it. So, but it's limited. Okay. And the
Yeah,
last trainer here, so that one's great catchers out of the running for now. And this is one of my favorites. I don't know. And this is Lily's Pokédoll.
yeah, I have that one too.
Okay. And I like to play Luke Metal. I like a tanky deck, and it gives you free gusting. So Lily's Pokédoll, it's an item. You play it as if it were a 30 HP basic Pokemon, colorless Pokemon. Anytime during your turn, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you can discard it from discard all cards from it, any energies or tools attached, and you put this on the bottom of your deck. The card can't retreat, but of course you don't need to retreat it because you put it in your deck. And then if it's knocked out, your opponent can't take any prizes. So certainly, like a deck like Luke, like a tanky stall type deck, it's good because your opponent, if they knock it out, they don't get any prizes. Good in Zashi and V, which came later. That was in the first of Sword and Shield.
Not that much later. It was what? It was like one
This,
set later.
okay, right, but a different rotation, different block.
Yeah. Mhm.
Was this gave an easy pivot with that if you played it in it, because this you had the Pokédoll. If your active was knocked out, you promoted the Pokédoll to the active, and then you could, or even if you had a switch card, your Zacian wasn't knocked out, you could just retreat the Zacian, and then boom, Pokédoll into your deck and get the switch. So it had a kind of a dual purpose of switching and not giving you prizes.
Yeah, as a pivot, it's not like a good pivot because you like lose it. Like you don't lose it permanently, but
You have to get
it's
it
not on the
back
board
again,
anymore.
right? It
Yeah.
doesn't go in your hand.
Obviously it doesn't give up prizes, but it's not like the ideal pivot, but it's a
Hmm.
good card. I think it's certainly still in the running.
Okay. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean it's
Okay,
limited
then
for the decks. All right, so what do you have?
yeah, I got two or no, I got three more. So the one I have that I'm surprised you didn't have is Cherish Ball. Um which searches for GXs. It's just
Yeah,
an item to search for GXs. It was
it was
um
a good card. I give you that. Yes.
notably when in the world championships that year, it was essentially the only like item search. Well, it
Hmm.
wasn't exactly the only item search, but I think there was Cherish Ball, and I think there's Mysterious Treasure, and there's Calm as well. But Calm isn't like I don't know. People didn't like Calm as much.
Okay.
So they had like so it was very good, and obviously when there are only GXs, it gets like everything. It's
Hmm.
super good Mewtwo Mew. You have you have Dedenne. You have possibly wait no, did you have Tapu Lele? I don't remember, but you had Dedenne. And Dedenne was like super good, and so that
Yeah.
meant any hand with a Cherish Ball is like good. So I think
Yeah.
Cherish Ball is like a very good card. Honestly, I think it might to me it might have been the best because it's like the
I
quick ball of the generation to
Well,
me.
I think, and you may have this on the list too. I'm guessing you do. Then I think Tag Call is a similar card that was better than Cherish Ball.
I didn't put well no because tag call
Well,
didn't get I don't have tag call on my list.
okay.
I was going to, but
For when we
it
played,
was
most GXs that were played were tag teams. Not all of them. Which, like, look, obviously there's some
well
non GXs
Dedenne
we'll get
wasn't,
to.
but Dedenne was
Right.
very good. I'll just say.
Yes. But
So
Tag
like
Call got
being
you not just Pokemon, but also the tag team supporters and such. So
yeah, but I think we cut all the tag team supporters
we did.
from
Okay, so you
this
don't have
list.
Tag Call, so
So
we ignore that. So Cherish Ball. So you want Cherish Ball on the list for now.
yeah, I think it has
Okay.
to me it's very good.
All right.
Um and then we got two banned ones, which I was wondering if you wouldn't include them and if you missed them when you're sorting through the
I might
cards.
have too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so these two are two very good. Well, the one's very good. They've both been expanded. The one that I feel like we have to keep in the running is
Oh.
Reset Stamp.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's yeah, my bad. That's yeah, like that one probably is a top 10. I mean, that's a super good card. So why don't you read off what it does?
Yeah, this is Reset Stamp an item. If you're familiar with N, it's N, but to your opponent shuffles the hand to their deck, draws a card to each of the remaining prizes. This means that at the end of the game, if you each have one prize remaining, it just really hurts your opponent.
Yeah.
It's just brutal. It enabled some super broken combos, which are a
Hmm.
little awkward to pull off, but literally stop your opponent from playing the game. I mean, they could work with what's on the board, but that's it. Um, so you had Reset Stamp, which is super good, and you could just put it in any deck. It's
Right.
a card that I never really loved playing with, um,
Hmm.
but it was very good. I think Reset Stamp has to be in consideration.
Yeah, that was good. I definitely played it. I should have had that on the list. I think yeah, I used live to search for it, and then the banned cards didn't show up. So very good card. Pika Rom, which I didn't really play, used it, and other decks did too. And obviously it changed things some because now even you might want to bench your Pokemon on your opening hand because you're going second. Your opponent might reset stamp and you lose them. So
There are a few things that can still do that now. Well, there's a few things that can do. There's Gape Drop Bog,
it
which
impacts it.
means
Yes.
they'll take damage, but then there's also Grabber. Or no, is that what it's called? There's the one that like
Yeah.
looks at their hand and like takes the Pokemon out.
But most decks,
Um,
a lot of decks played maybe one reset stamp, or at least they could.
yeah,
So
yeah.
okay,
Realistically, they'd very rarely like reset stamp turn one. That's kind of
yeah, you probably
not
don't.
the best
You want to
idea.
do it late in the game, get your opponent to like one or two card hand, um, was
Yeah, reset
generally what it
stamping them
does.
from 6 to 6 is kind of bad.
Yes. Okay.
But that yeah,
And you have
and then we
something
had
else.
yeah, I got another banned item here. Chip Ice Axe.
Yeah.
Look at the top three cards of your opponent's deck. Choose one of them. Your opponent shuffles the other cards back into their deck, and then you put that one on top. This one allows you to control their top deck. This isn't as strong as Reset Stamp. I think it's pretty clear that it's not that good, but it's very nice. It allows you to lock them out of the game because if they have no hand or a
Right.
dead hand, and you can like guarantee they have a dead hand,
Hmm.
and you can also guarantee they have a bad top deck, that's very powerful. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really in terms of control, we're really controlling the game. It gave the potential to just lock completely down what your opponent had to work with, right? You could get their hand down, size small. You could get rid of cards from hand and then control the top deck. So super powerful card, but it's only really control based, right? So I'm not sure that it's Hall of Fame candidate because it is
Yeah, I can see
narrow.
taking it out. Yeah, I think let's take it out. It's
Okay, because we got a lot of other
not,
cards to consider still.
yeah, it's not the best control card, um, and it's only control.
Yeah, but a very good card. So well worth bringing up. So, okay, so those are all the trainers, right? Do we have 10 trainers in running? Is that correct?
I have 9 trainers.
Two, three.
Can you read them?
I'm missing. So Cherish Ball, Swell, Pokédoll, Calm, Welder, Fire Crystal, Ice Axe, Surge, Reset
Oh, I
Stamp.
dropped Chip Isaacs.
Oh, that's right. We dropped that one. Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Now let's talk about Pokemon. I have 18. How many do you
I
have?
have 21.
Okay, so I'll start with what type? How are these like ordered? What is this? Um,
I think it's ordered by the order you kind of put them in the deck. That's part of what
uh,
happens, which is means it's very random.
yeah. Okay. Let's start with colorless.
Okay.
So I have two. I have Pidgeotto, a
Mm-hmm.
classic theme deck Pokemon.
Yep.
One that was pretty good. Its abilities versus stage one lets you look at the top two cards of your deck, put one to your hand, the other on the bottom,
Right.
um, which is a decent draw ability. It was very good at the time. It was the best engine, I guess, of that like style, but it was
Mm-hmm.
the only one as well. Um, and then, yeah. So, what are your thoughts on this card?
Yeah, from theme decks, obviously it was a tremendous card in theme decks because it was the only engine card I think in pretty much any of the theme decks. I might be forgetting something.
Yeah, it was certainly the there's Zip Striker too.
Okay, yeah, that's true. But this one you have to discard anything, and obviously if you had it with Pidgeot EX, that would be very nice. I think it's tough to see it as a top 10 card though, right? I don't know how early days. I don't know how much it was in standard decks. I know later on this really didn't appear in standard decks, right?
Yeah, it got like outclassed by Cinccino,
Yeah.
which then went on to be outclassed by like Inteleon.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't think Pidgeotto makes the list. It's not bad. It's a good card, but
Yep.
um, yeah,
Yeah, it's on my list too, but yeah, I think just it's not going to make the
yeah. And
cut.
the other one, I have one more colorless Pokemon, which is Munchlax,
Yep, which I have too.
which is a baby Pokemon, a little different than the babies we have now, but has free retreat, has more HP, no weakness. And its
Hmm.
ability says you can flip a coin. If heads, put a card from your discard pile on top of your deck, and then your turn ends whether you flip heads or tails. So a good control card, a very good control card.
Yes.
Um, what are your thoughts on it?
Wow, see, it's a tough one. It is on my list too, so I think it is good. Obviously, recovery, it ends your turn. There's attacks that recover. Well, this is any card, right? So, whereas most of the attacks are limited to certain types of cards, I think.
I guess there are some that recover anything. I think the main idea is you can hide behind something.
Yeah,
Um, at the same time, I don't think Munchlax should be here.
it doesn't. Yeah, the coin
I
flip, the
like it,
fact
but
half the time you're getting nothing for it. Um,
and
uh,
you can't ever guarantee that you get anything. Well, that's technically not true, but um, it's unlikely that you'll guarantee you get something.
okay, because there was like Will was around with it,
Yeah,
right? But
Will.
that was only on an attack flip, right?
No,
Or
Will would work for
that's
Munchlax,
the
but
card you're thinking of.
yeah, Will is the card I'm
And then
thinking
you
of.
will, and then you munchlax to recover the will. There you go.
Well, yeah.
No, probably something better. All right, so we'll
You know,
take it out. Yeah, I mean some of these. I think there's just a lot better Pokemon here than Munchlax and Pidgeotto.
yeah. Do you have any other colorless Pokemon?
No, that's it for colorless.
Okay, let's move on to an interesting type, I guess, throughout
Hmm.
the history of Pokemon, which is grass type. Do you
Grass
have any
type.
grass Pokemon?
I don't think I do. I
Okay,
was considering some, but I didn't have any. So go on.
I put in one, which is broken and expanded, but not so broken in standard, but not bad in standard either.
Hmm.
That's Rowlet and Alolan Executor, notable for two attacks. It's super growth attack, which is free, which allows you to essentially instantly evolve a stage 2 on your bench. The Tropical Hour
Hmm.
GX. This is a Pokemon. This is an attack that for 6 energy removes all your opponent's energy. Both of these attacks are good. Very
Right.
good. And then in the
Yep.
middle you have this like mediocre attack.
Yeah.
And so you could pair with like Rillaboom.
Yeah. Rillaboom. You could put it in a Mew deck, of course, right? There were
Yeah,
Mewtwo and Mew
with
decks
Rillaboom
that
probably still.
yeah that there are grass
Um,
Mewtwo and Mew decks that would play this.
Relish is what people call it or something, right?
Yeah, Relish.
Apparently,
The Yep,
I've heard that.
I've heard yes.
Um,
So I didn't really play with it. It was definitely I was kicking around with it. Belonged on the list. I don't think it's going to make that top 10. I don't think.
yeah, I think you're right about that one.
So it's worth a mention. So I think you're bringing it up isn't a bad thing. But yeah, I don't think it's going to make the list.
Okay, let's talk about fire next. I have two. There's a third one that maybe should have been here. But you want to kick off the fire ones?
Sure. I have four here. Do you want me to go with the one that
Four?
you I have four. All right. Shall I go with
Okay.
one you don't have?
Sure.
All right. Well, which one? You said you have three or two.
I have two, but
All right. Well, then this one is one you should have, and that's Volcanion.
yeah, I don't have that one. I was like, oh wait, I don't
Right?
have
Is
Volcanion.
this the one you could have put in the list?
That's when I realized. Yeah, I was actually just talking about it earlier today for like a GLC video.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it was obviously fire was good, like we said, and it was a like this was in like the greens fire deck in particular, I think, right? You and maybe others. If you went first, flare starter, you search your deck for
No, second.
second. I'm
You have to
sorry,
go
right? If you search your deck for a fire energy, attach it to one of your cards. If you go second, your first turn, you can attach 3 fire energies to your Pokemon in this any way you like. So that's quite nice. And the attack on it wasn't bad either. A basic 120 HP, did 50. Plus, if you have at least 4 energies in play, which with fire you're flooding the board with energies, then it does 60 more. So 110, which wasn't a bad number off a single prizer for 2 energy.
Yeah, it's not like a bad. It's a good Pokemon.
Hmm.
No, I don't think it's top 10. I think
So
it's
yeah,
like it's
no, I
okay.
think you're right. It's definitely below the top two for sure. So I'm willing to take it off. And then this other one, you don't have, but it's a favorite of mine, and probably a favorite of yours too. And this is Charizard, and everybody loves Charizard
Oh
from
yeah,
the theme deck, whatever it was called, right?
Relentless Flame.
Relentless Flame with the roaring resolvability. Once during your turn, you can put two damage cards on this Pokemon. If you do, you search your deck for up to 2 fire energy, put them on this Pokemon, and then continuous blaze for 2 energy, 30 damage plus 50 more for each fire energy. You had to discard the fire energy, so it would power itself up, do 130, and if you attach per turn, you're at 180. So a very nice single prize attacker there.
Yeah, I think you know it doesn't belong on the list.
I know, but
Um,
I had to mention it, right? And you love the
yeah,
card too.
I think at some point we need to do a theme deck Hall of Fame, but
Okay.
not today.
So not on the list. So
Yeah.
goodbye, Charizard. So you want to get to the two serious ones then?
Yeah, I'll start with the one that I'm not as confident about, but that's Blacephalon or Baby Blacephalon, Baby
Yeah.
Blounds, whatever you want to call it. I feel like we were just talking about this.
You
I don't
mentioned it,
remember why we
yeah.
were talking about that. Oh, with Cramorant, probably. V last time. But anyway, yeah, this has its attack. Um, oh no, we were talking about the Ultra Beast. Anyways,
Well,
so it is an
we're
Ultra
talking about
Beast.
Welder and Fire Crystal and stuff too, which it fits in with that.
Yeah, no,
This pod
last
last
one of the
time.
our previous podcasts
Okay,
we
could
talked about
be.
this
Yeah,
card.
it's an Ultra Beast. Yeah,
Um,
probably.
so the Fireball Circus though, for 3 fire, discard any number of fire energy from your hand. It does 50 for each card discarded in this way, which is can lead to unlimited damage. You can KO.
Yes.
For example, you can one shot an Eternus VMAX for a mere 10 energy. Um,
Yeah.
which people do. The people would definitely do that. Um,
Yes. Oh, well, I mean,
yeah.
this was a card, especially, and I played a lot of these fireboxes, and this was one I played with, and learning to use it properly took some skill because getting it set up wasn't easy. You kind of used it late game because that fire crystal was so huge, get 3 back, right? So you kind of late game, you need to get a lot of fires in the discard, play down a couple fire crystal, you're getting 6 or more. You have Giant Hearth, which you hated on because it's not in the list. But again, obviously it's huge in a deck like this, so you had a lot of tools. Um, is it good enough for the top 10? I don't know. I think it's a consideration though.
Uh, yeah, I guess we can leave it on for now. Um, I think the other one though is directly better than that, and that's Reshiram and Charizard.
Yeah.
Um, which is arguably the best of the tag teams, which are all very, well, not all, but mostly very strong.
Hmm.
It is 3 attacks. Long story short, they're just good. They're
Oh,
all
this is
good,
yeah.
and it's very strong. It could do big damage fast. It struggled with one-shotting, but
Hmm.
it struggled one-shotting like really big Pokemon. But aside from that, it was just very good.
Yeah, no, this is the best of the fires, but this, I honestly, I think this has got to make the top 10. Most likely, I'd be shocked if it doesn't. Part of it is how many of these trainer cards make the list, right? For terms of Blacephalon, it's not as good as this, but this is great. I mean, this is where the welder came in because with the GX attack on your first turn going second, if you had to get a little lucky or a lot lucky, this is where it was a very much a coin flip game. Did you get to go second, and then did you hit the welder, and did you have your energies? But if you do 200 damage turn one, and that would take out most Pokemon, even a lot of multi-prize Pokemon, even turn one doing huge damage, and then you're doing 230 for a single attachment the next turn, and you're probably not getting one shot by your opponent on their turn. So it was just
Yeah.
it was a beast. I mean, right? You'd agree with that.
Yeah. I think it's very good. It's also, in my opinion, one of the best looking Pokemon cards. Probably my favorite art. Not maybe ever, but I like the style. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's very very good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's move on to water. Actually, do you have any water Pokemon? I have
I,
one.
I have one, and I don't know if it makes it. I wonder if it's the same one you have, and that's Fion.
Oh, that's not the Pokemon I have. No, I think
Okay.
Fion's not good.
I mean, it's a nice card, and it would be look if it was around today, people would
Oh, it's
play
a
it.
theme deck card.
It was. And I'm guilty of that. I understand that. But Whirlpool Suction, right? If it's on your bench, you can have your opponent switch their active with one of their bench, and then you discard, or then the Pokemon goes back in the deck. There's a similar card now, but it's not as good as this because this goes back in the deck and it's not on play. It just sits on the
Or are you
bench.
thinking of? Are you thinking of? I don't think you're thinking of the same card I'm thinking of.
What?
That's similar to. What's the card you think of that's similar
I
to it?
can't remember. Isn't there one that's got
Because
an
there's
on
one.
play ability that does that?
Yeah.
That's what I'm
No,
thinking
yeah.
of.
There's also one that's very similar to it coming out
Or
in
is
this
that does it
Paradox
discard
Pokemon.
though? Or
Yeah, it
which is
discards.
also not as good. So this is
It
better than
is. It
both.
is.
It's not on
It has
play.
a
You
good
just
attack.
leave it on the
Or no,
bench,
it can't
play
be.
it down as soon as you get it if you want to. It's a threat your opponent's got to worry about. See, once you got it done, your opponent had to worry about getting disrupted, right? It was a little scary, right? Sometimes people would have
Um,
to, it's another thing they got to think in mind as they map out the game.
yeah, I suppose especially when rope wasn't really that common or in format
Yeah,
at all. It was better. I don't think it's good enough.
but
I
it's not
think
it's not a
it's
top 10 card, right?
no.
So we'll
No.
drop. Okay, so so you have a water Pokemon, you said.
Yeah, and I think this is definitely considered top 10. It's
Okay.
Keldeo GX. Keldeo GX is immune to GXs and EXs. And for a time, this was obviously very good.
Wait,
It
what is
also
it?
has
How do you spell it?
Keldeo,
Oh,
Keldeo.
Kel.
This,
Okay, yeah, not with
yeah,
a.
this one was better when we weren't playing as much, but it was good. So
So
everyone talks
Keldeo
about,
GX.
yeah, everyone
Okay.
talks about Zacian ADP, right? Which we'll
Mm-hmm.
get to, but before Zacian, there was Keldeo as a partner for ADP, which was very strong. I think Keldeo is a good card. I really didn't play with it much because obviously V's came out, but
Yeah.
it's also water type, good typing, not amazing. I mean, good typing, but its attacks aren't amazing. But its GX attack was very good against a Turndus as well. It would probably one shot a Turndus.
Yeah,
Water
50
wasn't
for
very
each
good at this
bench.
time,
Yeah.
uh, but I think Keldeo's I think it's in consideration for top 10.
All right, we can leave it in. I mean, yeah, it was typing was good because obviously it was on fire. They didn't have the energy acceleration, which obviously you have
Yeah,
that
well, you had
now.
Frostmoth.
Yeah, and was there
Um,
a Blastoise around that did
there
something then?
was, but yeah, themed deck
Well,
Blastoise.
but hey, that accelerated energy, which is hey, look,
Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't that good. It
hey,
was,
Excalibur's a
um,
stage 2 that accelerates energy, and it's very good. So
yeah.
I'm not.
But no, the main thing was Frostmoth, which we all kind of
Yeah.
know how. If you don't, it didn't work super well. But yeah, we'll leave this on the list.
Okay.
What type do you want to go to next?
Um, you want to do? Let's see. We don't
Oh,
want to
I
do
okay.
that.
I'll say what types I don't have. I don't have Fairy on the list.
Okay, I don't have fairy. I have.
I think I
Let's.
have all. Oh, I don't have fighting either.
Okay, I don't have fighting either. What do I have? Not much of. So let's see. There's several
Oh,
psychics.
let's do metal.
Okay, metal. Okay, yep.
I have two.
So I
Um,
have. I think two as well. Yeah,
is the one Luke metal?
yeah. The one's Luke metal, which I played a lot more than you. So I'll make the case. But honestly, I don't think I think it's going to come up short. It was good, but there's a dragon type Pokemon. This is kind of parallel to that was just better than this, right? So
Yeah, I'd agree with that, but I think Luke metal could still is certainly in the running.
So look, it's full metal wall GX. So the GXs were like the V Star powers
V
and
stars.
such. You had a marker, you turned it over, you could do one GX attack per game. This one, it would all your metal Pokemon took 30 less damage. So it was tanky. We had mentioned metal goggles earlier paired with this. So you're taking 30 less damage. And then if you had, what was it, 2 energy? Yeah, just 1 extra energy. So 2 energies, because that was part of the tag team. Again, they always had one
Yeah,
thing
and
it
these could
did.
both be colorless energy. Most of them
Oh,
are not like that.
that's true. Yeah, they're both colorless. Then you discard all energy from from your opponent's active Pokemon. So sometimes you'd want to get that tankiness early, but against some decks that you knew had to build up energy to get going, if you'd kind of need to wait to blow away their energy, and that caused them trouble. So it was an interesting game there. And then the other attack, Steel Fist for 2, did 50, but then you'd accelerate an energy to it. So, and then you're doing 150 later on. So the attacking was mediocre, but it was a tanky, defensive, disruptive Pokemon.
Yeah, I think, and you could play in control, which was a
Yes.
thing,
Hmm.
mostly during its early days when you had double colorless.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I think it's in consideration.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then the other metal Pokemon, I think, will it might make you. It's a Pokemon. It's Jirachi, right?
I think it's better. I see. I think Jirachi's better
No, I
than
think it
Liquid
is.
Metal. I gotta
It's
say.
well, you played a lot of Jirachi, right? And
I
you
did. Well,
know
it went in
the
well those
Jirachi
decks. Well,
experience.
see, I played. See, this is where we came in later to the game because Jirachi Stellar Wish, once per turn, if it's in the active spot, you look at the top 5 cards in deck, put a trainer card into your hand there, and there was no Drizzile, so this was maybe the best search card around, right? There weren't many things better than this.
Yeah.
But
Well,
then,
that no, yeah, we mentioned Pidgeot, which is an evolution engine.
yes,
If you want a basic engine, though, you do Jirachi and then paired with another Pokemon, or possibly multiple other Pokemon that are basic on play abilities that were very good.
right. But then the card would go back to sleep. And now we had Air Balloon and things who you could retreat, but you can't retreat when you're asleep. So in the early days, you had Escape Board, right? Is that what it, am I getting it correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And that you could retreat. Its retreat cost was 1, so it reduced the retreat cost by 1, and you could retreat when you're asleep. So it was very powerful at that point. Later on, you'd need to scoop up net to get it out. Now, I often would play these welder decks, and I play Jirachi, scoop up net, send up another Jirachi, grab another scoop up net, and it was kind of this vicious cycle of not making progress. But sometimes you did this to hit the welder, and then life was good. That was kind of, and you still had to get a scoop up net to get it out of there, or a switch card.
Yeah.
But
So Jirachi, I forgot. I honestly kind of forgot about skateboard, which was good. To find it earlier on for a little while. So yeah, that's
yeah,
completely fair. So it is probably better.
so I mean, I think it's
Okay.
a consideration, right? So we'll
Yeah,
for top
and you
10.
don't have any more metal,
No,
right?
nope.
Okay. Let's move on to probably. I think we have. Oh no, we have 3 types left. Okay, let's do dark, right?
Oh, I don't.
Which I have 2.
Okay, I just have one dark. So,
Which one is that?
and this one, I have Spiritomb. And do you
Yeah, I
have
have that one
Spiritomb?
too.
So,
Yeah.
which actually was like a top tier deck briefly later on. I don't
I
know
think it
how it
was
was
top tier
early.
a little while.
Maybe,
Um,
and it maybe
there
not
was
got the
before some
attention.
stuff rotated. It was such a weird deck because you're playing like Dodria. It
Right,
damaged
it's the same
itself.
thing, right? This one,
Literally or essentially.
I mean, this was a basic, whereas Dodrio was an evolution. You could put 1 damage counter on it, onto itself each turn. Now it didn't draw you a card for it, but then Anguish Cry for 1 dark energy did 10 plus 30 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Its HP was 50, so without any cape or anything, you're doing 160, right?
Which is okay.
Which isn't
Um,
bad for a single prize as long as you just get it up and you're powering up the Spiritombs while one's attacking. You just send another one up. So it's good. I mean, I'm not. I think it's tough to see it as top 10. I'll say.
yeah, that's fair. Obviously, generally you'd have more things to like do stuff with it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'd say Spiritomb is yeah, it's not that. It's not top 10.
Okay.
The other one though, the other dark Pokemon, I think is definitely in consideration. It's often overlooked and was
Hmm.
it's Umbreon and Darkrai. With
Okay.
debatably, it's one of the best GX attacks. For 1 colorless, it says your opponent can't play any trainer cards next turn, which is good.
Yep.
There's another card there that's better than that, but we'll get that. But then if you have 6 energy, 5 of which are dark on it, then you just instantly KO them, and they can't play trainers. So the
Yes.
idea is you get like one shot a 3 prizer with this. The next turn you say like one shot like a 2 prizer, so you can like come back from these massive deficits.
Hmm.
Um, and his main attack is certainly all right.
Yeah. No, Black
It
Lance
was a
is
build around of dark, kind of. Maybe it doesn't
right.
belong on the list, but
It was Dark Patch in format with it at one point or no? I don't
uh,
know when that rotated out. It's
no,
back
I
now, but
don't think so. It
okay.
wasn't. No, it was not in before. Dark Patch rotated in black and white.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you don't think it? You think it comes up short then?
Yeah, it probably comes up short. It's good. It's quite good, but it
It
comes
is
up
good.
short.
We have a lot of Pokemon, so I think saying no to some is necessary. So
Yeah.
okay.
I guess let's kick off Keldeo and Luke Metal as well now, I think. as they're not going to make it.
All right, hang on. So Keldeo, okay. Keldeo out. Luke Metal out. Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
So what do
Oh
we
wait,
have?
no, we
We
have
have
three types
lightning, we
left.
have psychic, and we have what else do we have?
We got
Oh, dragon.
the king.
There might be a
Yeah, which I
dragon
have
Pokemon.
one dragon Pokemon. Do you have one dragon
I have one
Pokemon?
dragon. So you want to do that? I have a lot of
Yeah, it's
psychic. That's the one I have a lot of.
yes, I also do. And this is named after my favorite molecule, ADP. Actually, I don't know. There's some like ADP molecule or something. I don't really know.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's nothing like bad. But I think I learned about it in like biology class. Anyways, ADP, Arceus, and Dalga, and Palkia GX, the
Yeah.
GOAT. Actually, I don't know, but I like it. People hate
It
it.
was a
Its
tremendous
GX attack.
Pokemon, yeah.
Yeah, its attack lets you take extra prizes for the entire game.
Yeah.
Which, if it sounds broken, it is. And you'd use that like as soon as you could. It needs 2 energy, but it's not a
Oh,
lot.
right.
Um,
A metal and
and then
something else, right? Or a metal and a water.
a metal in the water, yeah.
And you had dragon poke energy at that time or no? Was that
No,
that was
no,
just
that was.
expanded? Okay. All right.
But yeah, so you do that, and then you'd have this attack that lets you like power up everything, and you just like kind of win. It
Right,
was
because
very.
Ultimate
I'm
Ray
kind of exaggerating it,
did
but it was
one,
very good.
yeah, alter use 2 energies, alter creation, do 30 more damage, and you take an extra prize. So single prize decks would just be in trouble because you'd end up losing the prize race once they pulled off. Well, what would happen is they do alter creation. If you could knock them out before they did Ultimate Ray the next turn, you still could win. Ultimate Ray for 3 energy did 150, but it does 180 with the boost, and then accelerates 3 energy. So like later on, it was obviously in Zacian ADP. So you set up your Zacian with that attack, so that's ready to go the next turn, and that was what 220 plus 30 is 250.
It was 230, but
230. So it's doing
yeah,
260. So you were just blowing up your opponents pretty fast if you set up.
yeah. So you could honestly play the deck. A lot of people played it kind of slow. That you can theoretically get off turn one.
Mhm.
And it's not like that bad. That's how I personally like to use it. But then you
Right,
can also try to get it turn two, and that was very easy to do.
right.
So yeah, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. It was very good.
Yeah, when you're up against ADP for most decks, it was a race that you knew you had to take out the ADP before they could pull off Art of Creation, or else you just lost the game. Which made the game not so fun for it made a lot life difficult for a lot of decks. So, but
Yeah. So we have that. Let's move to the top, arguably the top two types.
hmm
One of which is lightning, which I have 3 cards.
yeah,
The first of which is Pikarom. It's just a very strong tag team. The first one,
yes,
arguably one of the weaker ones we're looking at, but it had a lot of tools that it's tools that worked with it.
hmm
It relied on comeback. It relied on a few different things, but
right.
it was still a very strong card.
Yeah, yeah. There were a lot of things to go with it that made it good, and it was a reset stamp deck as part of it too. As its comeback strategy they could fall behind and still do well. So, I think it's a contention for the top 10. Would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember I always kept thinking like, oh, how does this deck like win? It like loses every matchup, but
Right. That's what you
it
said. You
won.
consistently said that like for like a year, while it just like won everything around. So,
Yeah, I stand by that.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay. Then we have Tapu Koko Prism Star, which
Yes.
is good. I
hmm
think the only Prism Star card on this list. I mean,
Yes.
there weren't that many at the time, but so yeah, it lets you like accelerate energy. It's very good and expanded. It's not as good in standard. I think it probably doesn't make the list.
I guess. I mean, obviously, it's just lightning. It would dance of the ancient's ability. It would knock itself out. You'd attach 2 lightning energy from your discard pile to 2 of your bench Pokemon. 1 energy to 2 of your bench Pokemon.
Yeah, and then
Um,
you lose it. It's lost zones,
but your
so you can
opponent
get it
doesn't take
back.
a prize for it. So,
Yeah, that's true.
whereas
It's a good card, very good card.
so yeah, it probably comes up short, but it was good, but it's limited to lightning and such. So probably fair not to put it there.
Yeah, and then we have arguably the best card of the block, which is Dedenne GX. You just
Yes.
play it down, you discard your hand, draw 6 cards. You can only use one per turn, but like it's so good.
Yes.
Because as I was saying, Cherish Ball becomes
hmm
research, communication, Pokemon communication becomes research, except they're not research because they're not a supporter. So like
Right. You
any
still
ball
had
search
your
is now
supporter.
a better version than the best, arguably, supporter in the game.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
okay, Denny's only 6, but like it's pretty close.
right. I mean, no, Tadene was terrific. Now the attacks were not very good on it. That's the
Yeah, I mean
downside.
the GX attack is usable.
Yeah, but you probably had a better GX attack in your deck, right? I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
probably right.
It,
You weren't usually looking to use it. Look, the
I
on
probably use
play.
it more than 10 times.
Yeah, but you played like the Dene GX down what 1,000 times probably.
Well, yeah.
So look, it's a great card. It's probably the best of the bunch here. It went in almost every deck. And how else are you going to play Mad Party without it? So enough said there. Um,
Yeah.
Now it was a two
Um,
prize liability at 160 HP, so that was the downside to it.
yeah. But let's talk about now Psychic, and let's talk about a way to defend it. I have Mew on my deck, on my list, which is just bench barrier,
Yes.
which is good. I think
Hmm.
it probably doesn't make the list. As spread wasn't as good during this time period. Urshifu came in, and that was good, but
Right.
yeah.
And well, yeah, Crobat V was a bench hitter again, but you weren't
Wait,
really.
what? Was it?
I mean
What did?
Cramorant V. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was
Right,
like,
potentially.
okay.
Sorry, yeah, no.
Yeah.
But again, you weren't overly worried about that. You weren't going to play a Mew in a deck probably to deal with that. So yeah, it probably doesn't make it. But bench barrier was very, it was a good card. Could fit in some decks obviously easily. The attack
Yeah.
was interesting too. You put 3 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like for one color's energy. That was pretty interesting. And sometimes, when you're playing standard with a Mew in deck, and there are times you could win the game with a Scythe Power attack because you just sprinkle it around and grab like 5 or 6 prizes. I had games like that. It was a fun feeling.
Yeah. You could use it in theme deck too.
And another theme deck card. This is a good card though, but not top 10, right?
Yeah. Another card that's similar is Marshadow. Did you have that on your list?
Yes.
Yeah, which gets rid of a stadium. It's kind of like Chaotic Swell. It was actually counter to Chaotic Swell. I think at this point we should drop both of those cards though.
This card too. Well, it's a like Pumpkaboo, right? Except this was
Yeah,
not.
it's like
Except this was much better because it could sit on the bench. It's like
probably.
Fion, which sat on the bench and you used it. This one, you sat on your bench and you could bump a stadium whenever you wanted to. So you didn't have to. It wasn't unplayability. So it was quite good. But yeah, it's not top 10.
Yeah. It helped out Shadow Rider a bunch, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then I have 2 more psychics. Do you have how many more do you have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5? Okay, just
I'll
let's
say
hear
that you
yours.
don't have some of these. I'll go with some. Oracle or GX. You don't have
Yeah,
that one, right?
that doesn't belong. I was considering that
It's
one
not
in.
bad though.
No, it's a good card, but it's not great. It like the decks it fits in. Eh, the
Look,
decks that
single
fit in my head.
prize decks where you're getting blown up a lot, and then you had that multi prize liability there. But okay, so get rid of him. Let's see. Let's see that one you might have. Let's see what else do we have here. So I have this. I have Mewtwo from right with Mind Report.
From the themed. Yeah.
It was hey,
Um.
this made the this I played this in the Welder deck too though. It was good. It wasn't bad
Well,
then.
yeah, it's in the Welder theme deck. That is true.
Well, but I also played it in standard Welder decks, right?
Yeah,
So
it was all right. It was
it doesn't make the cut, right? But when you played it
no.
down, you put a supporter card and you just compile it into your hand, which is a nice ability. And we had scoop up net, so that's actually you wish you had that option now. But
Yeah, it's fine. Palpad's pretty good too.
yeah, this
Because
goes
it puts on top, so you can get it. You can get it with a Rangaroo. But
yes.
then you're like using all this or bench space. So
I have Mimikyu. You probably don't have that, or do you? Right?
which one? There's
With Shadow
multiple.
Box, Pokemon GX that have damage counters on them
Oh
have
yeah,
no
that one.
abilities. So it was a counter card that saw some play. Probably not important enough to be in the list, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's usable. It is all niche play.
It's kind of like it's a bad card. It
Well,
just doesn't.
I
It's
think
not a
it's
top
probably the
10
worst
card.
of the cards we said all day.
Wow.
Not the worst, but I think it's not good.
All right, so now I'm down to 2, and you probably right, and you have 2, right? So Gengar and
Yeah.
Mimikyu GX. You have that one.
Yeah, and I'll tell everyone all about this one. Horror House. It's an attack that says pretty much your opponent doesn't do anything next turn.
I
You
hated
can't play
this
any
card. I
card.
hated playing against this card. I get like flashbacks and trauma just hearing it. But go on.
Yeah. No, I also hate this card. Your opponent attacks and then you stop playing, and it's kind of like how you have Mediterranean V, Um, but like you're like, oh, they like did this cool combo and they like worked super hard to like pull
Yeah.
this thing off. Except this isn't that. They don't need to work at all. So
You just play this
they
card down, and you did it usually for one. They usually did it for one energy, so it's boom, one energy. You do nothing next turn while they just keep setting up.
Yeah, and usually, during this time, the first turns were like super important. So you'd go first, let's say, and
Mhm.
you do whatever. It doesn't really matter too much. And then they go second, and let's say they're playing Shadow Rider. They don't have to be playing Shadow, but they could be playing Shadow Rider, and they
Right.
help Shadow Rider a lot.
Right. What
And
it
then
says here is because what your opponent can't play any cards from their hand during the next turn. So unless they already had everything set up, which you probably don't, right? Especially on your first turn, you're not ready to attack the next turn. You just pass, right? You draw pass. That was it.
yeah. So yeah, so your opponent would go, then they be over to Gengar Mimikyu, and they play a bunch of Shadow Rider V's down,
Yeah.
and then they use this attack, and then it's back to your turn, and then it's your turn. You can't do anything. You pass. They play all their V maxes down, exert like a bunch of energy,
Hmm.
and then just like blow you up, or not necessarily blow you up, but you're down a lot.
Right. Now the downside of the card is the main attack wasn't all that good, I don't think.
It wasn't awful,
But
but
it
it
wasn't
wasn't
great. Usually
great.
they didn't want to attack with that most decks, right? They usually wanted to get set up something else, and then it gives up 3 prizes tag team. It's only 240 HP, so it had its downside, but it was really unpleasant to play
Yeah,
against.
I think this is on probably the bubble
Okay,
of
I think
making it.
that's fair. Yeah, and then the other one is I'm pretty sure it's a Hall of Fame or slam dunk, right? And
Yeah,
that's
this is the
Mewtwo
World
and Mew
Championship tag team.
GX 270
Actually,
HP.
yeah.
And then the ability perfection. And was that the name of the deck, by
Wait, we
the
kind
way?
of talked over. I'm gonna say
I know.
it's
Go ahead.
Mewtwo Mew.
Yes.
Yeah, Mewtwo Mew Perfection, aka the name of the deck as well. It lets you copy GX and EXs from your discard, or just GXs because EXs aren't there. So when we're like talking about all these other cards, well, Mewtwo Mew is like all those other cards.
Yes.
So it does everything.
Right. So you could play Fire Mewtwo with the Welder package and attack, copy off the Reshazard. You could play, there was Grass, Psychic, whatever you wanted, right? You could do with Mewtwo and Mew. So it was very good.
hmm So now we got 16 cards, right?
Oh, wait. I have more than that. All right. How many? I have too many Pokemon then, I guess. We have 9 trainers. How many,
Okay.
how many trainers? Or did you
No, we have
drop?
8
So you
trainers. We
dropped
dropped
Swell.
Swell.
Okay. And then you
Yeah.
have,
So
so we have Gengar Mimikyu, Pikarom, Reshazard, Dedenne. Let's see. Tapu Koko, was that out? I think
wait,
we said
what?
it was Tapu Koko out. I have
Which? Oh, Prism. Sorry.
Prism
Yeah,
Star.
that's out.
Sorry. And then what else do I have that's not doesn't belong? Oh, Umbra and Dark Ray. Did we drop that one?
Yeah, I dropped that one.
Okay. So we have 16. So we need to drop a few.
I
So
think we dropped Baby Browns.
I think that doesn't belong here. I agree.
I think we drop. Let's
Maybe
see.
Gengar and Mimikyu. We have to keep Mewtwo and Mew, right? We
Yeah,
have to
I
keep
think.
ADP. We have to keep Reshazard, right?
Yeah, I feel like we need to keep all the Pokemon. We
Well,
so
you didn't like you weren't sure about Jirachi, right? I mean, the Dene
but then
has to
I
stay.
kind of forgot. It was so good at when it came out.
Well, let's
I think
take a
let's drop Gengar Mimikyu.
okay. Or do you just want to look at the trainers first?
No, I think we can definitely drop it.
Okay, it's good. It's just that it's just outside the top 10. So I mean,
Yeah, it's a good card, good and expanded.
and we drop
But it
Blounce,
wasn't
right?
this. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. So I think we drop.
Pikachu and Zekrom probably stays. And then we have Luke
Yeah, I feel
Metal.
like we have to keep Pikachu. Like Pikarom's just like so iconic.
It was yeah.
Which it feels like kind of contributes some.
I don't know that Luke Metal belongs. I think that's the
So I
weakest of
thought
the
we dropped
Pokemon.
Luke Metal.
Oh, did we? Oh, I guess so. We
Wait,
did.
how many
Yes,
Pokemon do you? Yeah,
I have 6. Is that
yeah,
right?
and Luke Metal's not on the
Yeah,
list,
yeah,
right?
correct. Sorry.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Jirachi's probably the weak one there, but these
yeah,
all might stay, right?
yeah. I think we should drop Fire Crystal.
Yeah, I mean Welder stays.
Yeah, Welder has to
Um,
stay. Um, I think Stamp has to stay. I think I like Stamp.
okay, yeah, I think
Um,
Stamp stays. Uh, what do we
I think
drop?
we dropped Greens. I think Greens wasn't. Greens was good, but yeah.
You think Greens drops? I kind of
I
hate
think Greens,
dropping it, but all right.
like it wasn't that good.
How? But yeah, did Lieutenant Surge get played more than Greens though? I think that
Um,
was more niche. So I'm inclined to
well, the
drop Lieutenant
Transformers was
Surge.
better though, because when you use it, We could drop both though.
But but most decks weren't built
Um,
to use Lieutenant Surge, right?
no, well, most also weren't built to use greens, but when you use Lieutenant Surge, like you can just like win. So,
So, all right, so we'll drop
like you're
greens.
like yeah.
Let's think. So we
Let's
need to
see.
drop 2 cards still. So are we keeping Cherish Ball, Pokédoll, and Calm, or at least does one of those go?
I'm not sure. Do we drop? I think we have to drop Calm. I don't want to drop Calm, but
Drop
I feel like
Calm.
we should. Well, no, actually, I think we should drop Calm.
Well, do we drop Pokédoll? I mean, I like Pokédoll, but
And I think Doll was pretty good.
okay.
It was good in control. It was good in like. I,
It's good with Zacian
nah, we can
decks.
drop. Yeah. Well, it's good in like Luke Metal.
Yeah.
I wasn't really playing ADP. Let's see. I could. This is like a weird list.
It is. So
I
we
think we
could
keep all the
drop.
Pokemon.
Yeah. So we have right. We have 5 tag teams, though, or no, 4 tag teams. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um. So we drop what Calm, I guess, and you want to drop
maybe. I don't know. I don't really
Surge.
want to drop Calm. I mean, obviously they're all very good. I'm considering Doll as well.
Yeah.
Obviously it's like a fun card, and it's a good card, but um, I guess we drop Surge. I think we drop Surge and Calm.
Okay. I mean, they're really good cards. So obviously,
I think
so.
Surge was very good, but as you said, it was a bit more niche. Um,
Mhm.
and I think we drop Calm too, because actually no, let's drop. Should we drop? I think we drop Doll or Calm.
I mean, did Calm get played more? Because you kind of said people didn't play Calm all that
Yeah,
much.
most people didn't like Calm. Yeah, let's drop Calm.
Okay.
Surge was good, but it was kind of like weird. So,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. All right. So there we have
is there a way for me to add these cards to another list? I don't think so. I need to add it to the Hall of
to
Fame.
merge list, right? You want to
Yeah.
build, but yeah, not in live. All right. So going through the list, we've got Pikarom, we got Reshazard, we have the Dead GX, super strong. We've got
Yeah.
Mewtwo and Mew. We got ADP, either your favorite Pokemon or your most hated Pokemon, Jirachi, Cherish Ball, Pokédoll, Welder, and Reset Stamp. So,
Yeah.
so let us know what you think in the comments, particularly on the YouTube. What we missed, what we got wrong, what we got right. Probably won't be much that we got wrong. You can just say how right we are. I imagine that's all you could do. But some really good cards, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm looking through the list at just some cards, and there are some very good ones we didn't talk about as well. Not ones I think are better, but still strong.
Yeah, which is good, right? It's good to have depth of cards. So were these cards better than where we are today? I don't know, but there were some nice options. And obviously, some cards would be nice if they came back for options, but I think most people are probably glad that the tag teams have rotated, even though they were super strong.
Yeah, I think they were kind of fun, but a lot of people don't like them.
Well, because part of it's we're newer to the game than some people
What
that
trainers do we put in? Cherish Ball, Welder, Doll,
Pokédoll
and
and Stamp.
Stamp.
If you were playing the game before tag teams, also, and these were the first 3 prize Pokemon, it kind of sped up the game and dominated, right? So it
Mhm.
changed things a lot. So if you were playing an established player before tag teams came out, I can see why you wouldn't have liked it, right? But for us, we came along when tag teams were in the game already, so we had them from day one, really, for us. For once we were playing the game more regularly and seriously.
Yeah. And I think I definitely get the hate for them. Because there are definitely times when I wouldn't like if you want to play like a single prize, you really couldn't. Um, a lot of them were bad, unless you could like one shot a tag team. So,
So you needed your Blacephalon, and you need to build things up so you could pull off that turn and survive long enough to get there, which wasn't
yeah,
easy. Okay.
yeah, and just for saying like Blacephalon, you need like 10 energy. You need to like pull off some
Yes.
crazy stuff. Um,
It wasn't easy,
so
and most of the time you were playing a Reshazard yourself too. A lot of times, so you had your own
yeah.
tag team along the way. So
Mhm. But I think these cards are kind of cool. They're fun looking back on them. I don't know if they're fun now. But next time, I think we should. So we're gonna do this for the upcoming rotation, but that's obviously a little whiles away.
Yep.
And we're also gonna do that. It'll tell us if you're interested in us doing these for older expansions and or older like blocks and what cards we should do. Because before this, we don't have as much experience. We certainly could do it, and I think we will.
Right.
Or are we? I think
I
we
think
should.
for the earlier Sun and Moon cards, right? I'm thinking we might cut it off at that point.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see how
But
the
we'll
earlier
see what
Sun
you're
and Moon
interested in
goes,
as
right?
well.
Yeah, see what people like, and as well as how we do with it, because we have less experience as we go back farther with the cards.
Yeah, I'll need to look at some stuff. Look at like tournament, and then tournament data gets worse, as well. I think Limitless, like regular Limitless, not Play Limitless, started in like like started with GXs right before GXs. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
I
Right.
guess we'll go back to like is comment down below with the best resources. I know there's PokeStats, which I think I don't like as much, but it's certainly okay. It's not as refined as Limitless, and there's also one that has all their tournament data. I don't think we're going to go back beyond before Black and White, but we'll see. So we hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider subscribing to the channels, like the videos, subscribe to both channels as well. We do have the same podcasts, but we have obviously different videos, and then we also have like for the podcast episode, we have different video like displays. So check
Right.
out, figure out which one you like more. They're pretty much the same, but and if you have any suggestions, of course, comment those down below. Share this podcast as well. You can check us on podcasting platforms, and we're excited to see you next time.
Take care.